Hello, Margaret. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you. So let me cover some housekeeping items first before we get
Yep.
started. For those of you who are joining us live, we love when people ask questions. So the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should have a Q&A button. Click on that button and you can type in a question. There's even a box where you can click that says anonymous, so nobody will know your name or who's asking the question. We really like audience participation. So at any time, if Margaret says anything or you have additional questions or a question comes to mind, please ask a question and I will make sure that it gets asked over the course of the next 30 minutes. Okay, without further ado, I'm Jen Chaney. I'm the Vice President of Franchise Development for Right at Home. Margaret, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, so Margaret Haynes, President and CEO of Right at Home. Super excited to be able to join you this afternoon.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start very general. It's February 2023. You're the president, CEO of Right at Home. We have a big year ahead of us. I personally know I've got a behind the curtain view. We've got big plans for 2023. So I'm just talking a little bit about what the outlook and this year looks like for Right at Home.
Yeah, so I could probably talk for hours and hours and hours about that,
I
but
know.
we do. We do. 2023 is going to be a fabulous year. We're coming off a strong year in 2022. And as a system, so we've set as an entire corporate team in conjunction with our franchise owners a 3-year strategic plan. And we've coined a phrase around that plan to say our goal over the next 3 years is to take care to a whole new level. And so we're really focusing on some key areas that will help do that across the network. So we're focusing on how do we continue to drive growth? How do we continue to help our owners get the caregivers that they need to be able to support the demand that's out there, because we know there's so much demand for our services. How do we give additional operating systems that can help with like a CRM that's going to enhance their ability to stay connected both on from an applicant side and a client side and the family side. We're also looking at, we've created a whole new team that all they think about is innovation, right? So how can we innovate around the business model? And also how can we innovate around technology? So those two arms, and we have two groups that they're thinking about in the changing dynamics of healthcare and how the healthcare lines are blurring and more is being pushed in the home. What can we do both from leveraging technology, whether that's in the home to help when a caregiver can't be there, could be technology that's in the home that helps when the caregiver is there, or technology that maybe helps from an operational perspective. And on the flip side, thinking about our core business model and what are different ways, recognizing that the consumer that we're taking care of now is a little bit different than the traditionalists. We're still taking care of some of the traditionalists, but we're starting to get baby boomers moving in, and they're a completely different consumer. So how do we start to think about supporting that group as well? So then our third kind of key area that we're focusing on to take care to a whole new level is really around what we call our company owned, or ROCO is a term that maybe I'll slip out because I'm, get so used to talking about it. But we have 10 locations that are company owned. And the reason we have company owned is because they can serve as our test kitchen. And it allows us as the franchisor and as a corporate team to walk in the same shoes as our franchise owners on a day-to-day basis. So we're dealing with the same challenges they are, and we can not only test out best practices, share best practices, but when it comes to that innovation piece I talk about, we can actually devote resources off and say, well, let's test this out in a micro setting and not have to put that heavy lift on franchise owners that need to keep running their business on a day-to-day basis. It's okay if we take some swings at some innovation, which we know aren't going to hit. That's just part of innovation. And that's okay because we can lose those dollars. I don't want that to be put on to our franchise owners, but yet they can reap the benefits of the innovation that becomes good hits for us. So really excited about 2023 and this whole idea that we are truly going to be taking care at a whole new level.
Okay. I have lots of notes here. I'm not sure where to begin. Okay. So I want to cover this just right out of the gate. And then we're going to talk about awesome, positive, happy things.
Okay.
A constant that we get here on the franchise development team, or really anybody looking to purchase a business right now,
right,
Unfortunately, right now, people are really struggling to find help. That's
Yep.
just in general.
Yep.
So we talk a lot about caregiver recruitment and retention. It's a frequently asked question that we get often here on the franchise development team, and something that, is part of our daily lives. So would you
Right.
mind just commenting to our listeners on what we do to help and support our franchisees when it comes to caregiver recruitment and retention?
Yeah, so there really is a ton of things. Again, I could probably talk for hours about all the things that we're doing to help. I think it's really important for anybody coming into the industry to understand that this is not, it's not a problem that it's like, okay, as soon as we do this, it's going to be solved. So it is a society thing. It is a challenge that we are going to have a shortage of workers, regardless of what industry you're in, for the next 20 to 25 years. And it's a math problem. And it really doesn't, even 25 years, we're still going to have the issue because you've got this big group of baby boomers and not an equal group base behind them to take over the role. So we also see, the problem with people retiring now. A lot of the senior executives companies or what may be retiring because it's just those baby boomers are hitting that age group. So I don't want to give the impression that because of the different things that we're doing, that the problem will be solved, because it's always going to be something. But I can also say, from the moment we started this concept back when Alan Hager started it in 95 and we started franchising in 2000, you've always had to constantly be thinking about where are my caregivers going to come from and where are my clients. So we've had a balance when we first started where there was a ton of caregivers and clients were starting to learn about the value of the services. And now the scale has tipped. We've got a ton of people that really want to take advantage of our services. So there's so much demand and not an equal amount of caregivers. So we focus a lot on, from the moment that someone is interested in becoming a caregiver, and even putting the idea out there with some of our marketing to say, hey, have you ever considered? And here's the value that comes from having a role that you really are making a difference versus maybe some other roles that don't quite give you that same inherent value, that intrinsic value that comes from actually being a caregiver, because they truly do angels work out there. So starting from that moment, we infuse dollars from our marketing to help drive applicants. We have an applicant tracking system that helps the journey of that individual, that applicant going through the process. We take each element and we've broken it down into what we call micro experiences and really coach our offices on how do you create a great experience at every single step along the way, because we know that if you engage early with that applicant and they feel supported, and then they obviously go through orientation, you get them to their first shift, you stay connected with them, your odds of keeping them as a long-term caregiver are drastically increased if you focus on creating that culture and that first initial experience that really gets them connected with you and your business.
Okay, so you did a fantastic job of generally describing what we do to help and support our franchise owners, but I know there is and you could talk for probably 8 to 5. Let's do an all-day session sometime, Margaret, to talk about all the things. So I just want to emphasize that we have so many tools, so many resources, so much support when it comes to that. So yes, it is a concern that some people have. We have some franchise owners that's not a concern of theirs.
Right.
For whatever reason. So just know that you're going to have our help, our support to overcome that challenge when and if the time comes. Okay, so 2 questions have come in while you were talking. First one, do franchisees test programs too, or is it only company centers?
Great question. And so the quick answer, and then I'll go in a little bit longer, is absolutely, franchisees help with testing as well. So even when I talk about this innovation group and some of the things that they're doing, we actually have a sub task force that works with the corporate team that's focused on innovation that is made up of franchise owners. So they're involved in doing beta testing, helping us think through, and we actually use that task force approach across all elements of the business model. So we have a strategic leadership council that is made up of franchise owners, There's 12 of them that sit on the council, and they too help us figure out and participate in strategy development. But then as we're going out and thinking about testing something, or we've got something now we're ready to take broader, we're always engaging with our owners, and engagement is really the key. That's why one of the key values of coming to a franchise network is you get to not only start a business that has a proven track record, right? In terms of you've got all these systems and policies and procedures and things that can help you get this business up and going. But then you've got an entire network of people there cheering you on and supporting you and being a resource, not only the corporate office itself, but also all the other franchise owners in the network. And so engagement and using our franchise owners to participate in those kinds of innovation is always very important, but we're very respectful of time. And so we ask for volunteers to make sure that we're not pushing something on someone that they're not ready to get involved with.
Yep. And I just thank you for that. One thing that I do want to add, if you become, or when you become a Right at Home franchise owner, your voice will be heard. Absolutely. We aren't the type of franchisor, and this is one of the many things I love about Right at Home. We aren't the type of franchisor that's like, this is how we do things, take it or, leave it. A lot of the greatest ideas have come from franchise owners themselves.
Absolutely.
So just know, when you become a franchise owner, you will have a voice, and we will be listening. And the SLC, so the Strategic Leadership Council that you mentioned, is made up of franchise owners that we work with very, very closely on every big decision that is made. Our franchise owners do have a voice in every decision that we make. And I really do love that about Right at Home. Okay. Going back to the caregivers, this question is, can baby boomers ever be caregivers themselves?
Great question. And the answer is absolutely. When I think back to, we celebrate a Caregiver of the Year every year, which is what my most favorite part of our annual meeting called Home Improvement. So each office across the network can nominate caregivers. We have 8 region winners, and then we actually designate, someone gets selected from an independent third party of who's the Caregiver of the Year. And I think back to some of our caregivers over the years that I've been involved with the brand. And, we've had caregivers range from, 20 some years old to 90 years old. Mm-hmm. And so absolutely. And there's things that the local offices will sometimes do. There's a program that some of you use called Volunteering with a Paycheck. And that's an outreach to individuals that maybe are in retirement now. They're done with corporate job or whatever they're doing, but they're really not ready to just be on the golf course all the time, and they really want to be able to give back. And so a lot of caregivers can come from those that are baby boomers, or those that are now moving into retirement age and just ready to make a different kind of impact on their local community.
Awesome. Okay, so going back, kind of backtracking here, people were typing questions as you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt. So I believe this is something that I mentioned, and I know I'm pretty sure you have as well. Right at Home has all of these tools and resources and, subject matter experts. This question is, do those tools cost extra?
Good question. So in general, the answer would be no, in the sense that we have a core, what we call the hub, and that is an electronic repository where you as a franchise owner can go in and get lots of access to tools and resources. And we kind of think of the business model in the terms of centers of excellence. So depending upon what challenge you may be having in your office or thing that you're working on with your team, we can direct you in directly into an area called a center of excellence to deal with expertise, specific tools that are designed for that. We also use some third parties. So from an HR perspective, recognizing that your employees are your employees, but as an employer, you need to have access to good resources to make sure you're in alignment with federal and state regulations as it relates to being an employer. We actually partner with a third party, and so we make sure you have access to that third party as well, something that we pay for you to have access to in order to ensure that you, again, have the right tools in place. But are there some things that the franchise owner does pay Yeah, or yes, the answer is yes. So one example I would give you is we also have this program around profit mastery. And we actually believe so strongly in the importance of understanding your financials and being able to understand the health of your business. And so it's noted that we want you to take that course, and it's like $395, and you have access to the course. You can take it as many times as you want, as long as you're an owner in the Right at Home system. But it's through a third party that then really is that foundation to the wonderful program we have around performance groups, which we could have a whole conversation about that as well. But
Yep.
hopefully that answers the question.
We could do a 30-minute session just on performance groups, Margaret.
Yeah,
let's add that to the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 questions have come in, and then I wrote one down myself, so we've got lots to talk about. First question here, let's see. There seems like there are a lot of other programs out there like Meals on Wheels. Do you participate in that? If so, is it on a national level? Does it cost to participate?
Yeah, again, a really great question. And I would say across the network, there are local offices that absolutely engage with their area on aging, right? So their ENOA that we have here in Nebraska. And so, yes, there are offices that engage with Meals on Wheels, but it's not something national that everybody has to engage with it. So it's really based on a local market. I can tell you from a corporate office perspective, we do support Meals on Wheels here in the Omaha area, and we deliver every Friday on a set route. And is something that has always been near and dear to my heart. So I've been involved with Meals on Wheels even before Right at Home. And again, is just one of many great programs that can be brought from a local perspective as well as from a national.
Yep, that's right. And then let's see here. How long does a franchisee receive corporate support?
You receive corporate support forever, basically. So,
Pretty much.
Yeah. From the moment you're engaging with our brand and talking with our development team and learning about the brand, we want to make sure you're getting all the support that you need in order to make an informed decision and decide if this is really the brand for you and the business that you want to get involved with. But all the way through your life cycle as a business owner, we're going to be right there alongside of you. And we adjust how we're engaging with you based on where you are in your journey. So when you first come on board, you'll probably be a lot more engaged with a right start individual that's going to help you kind of get your business ready to open. And then we have business performance coaches that work with you throughout your life cycle and help you really continue to build your business. Because our goal at the end of the day, why we get up every morning, is to help you build a sustainable, profitable business. And so we stay really focused on how can we do that up until the moment, and even after you sell your business, 6 months after you sell your business, myself or somebody is probably going to be calling you up and saying, hey, can you just give us some insight? Because hindsight's a beautiful thing of what was it like to be part of the Right at Home system. So we're always there to support and want to make sure that your journey with us, as long as you're associated with the brand, is a very positive one.
That's right. Okay. I'm going to keep firing through these questions, Margaret. This one here is a wonderful question. Have you ever thought about senior employees building care credit for when they may need it? Does anyone do this?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. And I know at one point, this one I'm probably not going to have a great answer for, because I know at one point we were looking at a way to say, could you like prepay for some services, or could you give care as a gift, thinking around the holiday seasons or whatever the case may be. And I know some offices have dabbled with that, but I haven't seen it full blown. But I think that that's something, as we think about business model innovation, and as we start to think about how as the consumer needs are changing as we're dealing with a different consumer, that is absolutely something that may ultimately be more commonplace than not.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Okay. And then, do owners help other owners?
Yes. I mean, again, that is one of the key benefits of being part of a franchise network. And truly, there are such strong bonds that get created, starting with your training class. So when owners are first coming into the system and they're gathering with others that are going through the same journey at that point, there's strong bonds built there. We also help do state meetings and region calls that allow you to meet your neighbors, engage with your neighbors. And then certainly our annual meeting called Home Improvement, that's when everybody comes together. And there are relationships that have expanded beyond just business relationships over time, just based on the camaraderie that's been built across the network. And then certainly performance groups is another way that there's constant sharing of best practices and really being there for each other as a network and as a brand.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a question that we have covered before, but this listener is asking, what are the top 3 most common challenges a new franchise owner faces?
Yeah. So kind of top 3 most common. I think, one of is just you may feel overwhelmed when you're first coming in, right? Because it's stressful. Change is always stressful, regardless of if you choose the change, it can still be stressful. And so I think, just overcoming that fear and knowing that we're here to surround you. We're here to give you the tools that you can use to start your business and get it up and running and growing. So I think that's one challenge, is just kind of that fear that our mind plays on us. And even when we see owners here during their week of training, sometimes they're on a little bit of a roller coaster, and they're really high at the beginning, and then they're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And those are all normal feelings and normal experiences. And we just keep telling them, but know that we're here to help them continue to move that. So I think the layout that we have of a project plan really addresses that.
Sure.
I think one of the other challenges, and it really is situational in terms of the individual that's coming in, but the fear of, well, I don't know anything about home care, right? So not just this kind of going to business, but I don't really know home care. And I would say the majority of our franchise owners came from different walks of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been in the medical field. There certainly have been some. And again, it's about, we're going to help surround you with the knowledge and the way in which you will be able to, go out in your local community and talk about the services that you have available and that you can provide to their loved ones or to individuals to help them age gracefully wherever they go home. And I'm trying to think of a kind of a third kind of key fear. I never think of them as fears. I think it more of what a key thing is in terms of coming into the network is to please come in with an open mind and recognizing, take advantage of the value that a franchise network brings to you. So be an individual that wants to really engage, because that's really going to help drive the success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So this kind of ties to what you just talked about a little bit. This person is asking, is there anyone on the team, maybe the franchise coach, who can assist with information such as creating a pro forma?
Oh, well, so certainly our business coaches are there to help you through your entire journey as being a franchise owner and thinking about your strategic plan and how can you set goals and objectives. If you're talking about a pro forma coming into deciding whether or not you want to own a right-at-home business, that's something that you need to build through the information that's provided in the FDD, because we have an obligation that we have to abide by the rules and regulations that are out there from a franchising perspective. So we never want to put you, the candidate, or ourselves in a situation where we've crossed a line.
Sure.
But certainly through validation calls that individuals can do with owners, you can get a really good sense for what the business is like. And I truly hope, as you do validation calls, that you catch an owner on a good day, a bad day, and an ugly day, right? Because, we want people to come into this business eyes wide open and understanding it's a 24/7, 365 business, but it's also such an amazing business and something that is a really unique way to touch lives in such a meaningful way.
Sure. And then maybe why don't we, okay, so I was going to say, maybe let's talk about it from a different perspective, but he just said, okay, thanks for the explanation. So I think we're good on that one.
Okay, good.
Okay, so 2 more questions here. This one should be easy. And I'm wondering how you're going to answer it, because I might answer it a little bit differently.
Okay.
Is training only that 1 week? Because you did say, I believe, a week of training. So maybe elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so no, training is not just that 1 week. So the 1 week that I was mentioning, and shame on me, was just the week that you come into Omaha and actually engage with directly. But there's Zoom meetings and different training that's happening on your journey to where you're ready to open your doors. But training is ongoing for as long as you're associated with the brand. So we are constantly doing webinars and panels and providing best practices and tools that you can use, all of which are elements of training. And we also have a electronic training system. So when I say electronic, it's an app that you can go through and caregivers can go through and your office staff can access, called Right at Home University, that gives tons of training that you can use throughout the life cycle to create career paths for your teams and your caregivers. But it also has, leadership classes that you can take in there as well. So training is inherent in who we are, because it's just so important.
Yep. And so to put it simply, how I would phrase it, so that 1 week, we call that residence week. That is the only week that you're here in Omaha in office training, residence week. But I would argue, let's just pretend it's Discovery Day. Congratulations, you've been approved. You sign your franchise agreement. You're officially a franchisee. Guess what? Training starts that day.
That's right.
Yep. So training starts, it happens before residence week. It happens during residence week. It happens after residence week. It happens after your doors are open for business. You're constantly in training. But I would say the official training really does begin the day that you sign your franchise agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. So this question, does anyone offer care for people on vacations?
So the answer would be yes. And I think it depends again on what you mean by on vacation. So is it that, okay, I'm going on vacation, I need someone to watch mom while I'm away? The answer to that would be yes. There's times when they would then bring in a caregiver, or I'm taking mom, or mom wants to go somewhere and needs a caregiver to go with them. Has that ever happened in the system? And the answer would be yes too. Now, obviously, that's not the core element of the business model. You're typically going into the individual's residence or wherever they call home and providing care. But there are situations where there have been caregivers at local locations that have accompanied their client on giving them support as either on vacation or while their family's on vacation.
Okay. Got it. And look, it's almost 2:30. I feel like we have covered a wide range of questions and I had a question for you regarding home improvement. I feel like we really could cover an entire 30-minute session just talking about all of the things that we do at Home Improvement, which, by the way, Home Improvement, our annual conference, that is coming up the end of February. So you and I are visiting.
End of April.
Yes. Most definitely. It's not in 2 weeks. That is not the case. So anyway, it's the end of April. So you and I are visiting again before that. So perhaps that's a topic of conversation for a future discussion. But I did want to put a plug in there for those of you who are listening. If you want to join us again, it looks like, and Micah, correct me if I'm wrong, our next session is going to be about navigating through the research process with Right at Home. So everybody who is interested in purchasing a Right at Home business, you go through a research, education, and approval process with the franchise development team, and we're going to kind of break that down on our next live call. So make sure to tune in for that one. You should receive an invitation from your development director that you're working with. Margaret, thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed these conversations. I know the people interested in franchising with Right at Home really do value these discussions as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Okay. Have a great day. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Bye-bye.